Live in the now. Today, I am joined by Jen Wilkinson, and she and I met over on LinkedIn, and she is absolutely a rock star in every right. We are having a conversation that is going to cover everything from being present, living in the now. Who do you accept all over on social media, right? So she's actually had stalker experiences. She's gone from everything from being a psychologist to being a extremely successful saleswoman to also being a stand-up comedy and coming full circle to writing a book now. So this episode is jam-packed with lots of very interesting information that is going to just fuel your day, your week, and challenge some of your thinking. So thanks for listening. And remember, if you haven't already liked, subscribed, shared all of those fun things, please make sure that you do. This podcast only grows because listeners like you take a moment to share the episode with someone. And when you choose to rate it 5 stars and scroll down to the bottom of Apple and review it, it makes this ginormous difference for the podcast in reaching new people like you who will grow from this. All right, well, let's dive on in. Hey guys, welcome back to Ask Me How I Know. As you know, I promised that when season 2 struck, I was going to be bringing on a variety of guests, even outside of the multifamily space, because it's important that we learn how to think outside of our own sphere and to really broaden how we're our perspective on things. And today I meet the most amazing people over on LinkedIn. If you're not on LinkedIn, you really need to head over there. And Jen is just one of the most amazing women that I have met over there on LinkedIn. And so I just want to welcome you to Ask Me How I Know. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Julie. This is an honor, and you are a fabulous woman. So I cannot wait to have this connection today with you.
Oh, thank you so much, Jen. And we've already had this great conversation off air, which is what I love about podcasting so much. But you have had so many amazing professional experiences that I asked you, will you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit, because your background is so eclectic and rich and powerful that I feel like that's what really supports you in everything that you do. And one of the main reasons I wanted to bring you onto the show today.
Awesome. So I did grow up an only child, and funny enough, 27 years later, I had 9 stepbrothers and sisters. My parents married the same year. And so really as a kid, I was kind of a loner and studied people and was the one made fun of, rocks thrown, chased. And then I did have a very sensitive nature, and I've since learned I'm an empath, meaning if you look that up, it's that you really absorb people's energy, and sometimes you have to remove yourself because you can feel people's negativity, even if they're not saying it. And so I absorb a lot of people's energy. I decided to become a psych major in college because I love that studying of people. And I did a lot of volunteer work, so I got exposed to when people don't have anything, like working with gang members in Los Angeles and mentoring youth at risk and working with battered women. They didn't have anyone to help, and I didn't have any experience with that. And it was so humbling to see when people can really come out of some horrific things. Then I decided to go into business because my whole family was in sales. Well, my mom and dad and uncles and everyone back were type A achievers. And so I thought, I can control my paycheck. I could go a PhD and go take and get all this debt and go through schooling to become a psychologist at some level. But sales just seemed natural for me because it's relating to people and reading people and needing that achievement. So I did that for almost 12 years, worked for some small and large companies, had a lot of amazing stories, and I've never missed a quota. And 14 years of sales, I was usually in the top 1%. And then I took a hiatus. I said, you know what? You live once. And it makes me stand out. I usually get an interview when I apply to a job because they said, I've never seen a salesperson that's a stand-up comic in the past. So I entered stand-up comedy and got to open for A-List and do that crazy world for almost 7 years. And I also took time off with animal rights. So I did work getting the attention of Gabriella, the director of Blackfish, from a blog I was writing. And I fought hard against dolphin and orcas abuse and took it further than just the movie. And actually went to SeaWorld after a year of study. And I was there to protest, my first protest ever, and I missed it.
Oh, no.
And I got lost to San Antonio, Texas to find SeaWorld. And so I ended up just paying the $60 and going inside. And when I saw the dolphins in a chlorine small pool, I actually was moved with a tear, and just, it was so hard. And it was called A Dark Day, 3 parts. And the director found it. And that was some of the most rewarding work because animal rights had been handled wrong in the past, like very extreme, throwing red paint on people wearing fur, or very attacking. And instead I made it more of my sales background of relating and finding out where people are. So I just said a lot, but that's kind of my background.
That is extraordinary. Everything that you're talking about is just like, I already knew that I liked you, and I knew that there was so much. And as you're talking and thinking, there is already this connection here that we didn't even know. I can relate to just absorbing everyone's energy around. I didn't realize that until, several years ago. I started really honing in on that, but that heart to help and to serve others and to help them become stable so that they can be vibrant and live the life that is possible. Oh, all the way down to animals. What was it that gave you the courage? I have to ask because somebody's listening and they're going to wonder, how did you find the courage to leave sales, take a hiatus, and say, #YOLO, I'm going into stand-up comedy?
Right. My dad always used to say, I wasn't the best student until college. And he said, everyone's there, so just put the work in. And for some reason, it kind of translated to, we're only here on earth once, so push yourself. Like, if I get bored and know how to do something, I want to be challenged. I don't want my tombstone to say #1 sales executive. I need to do something to say, let's stand in front of 300 people in the dark and let them laugh all at the same time. How about that? And then being female, that was even rare when I got into comedy to be thought that women could be funny, that there's very few can name female comics. And so that was exciting for me I love to break barriers and stereotypes. That gets me really pumped up and passionate. So I would say it's just saying that I'm going to do everything I want to do. And my dad, we talked about our fathers and how big of an influence they have in our life. I remember he used to always say, extend your hand out first. And so that always led to me getting to influencers or CEOs of Fortune 100 or even well-known people, because they're just like us and equal. And my dad always taught me too, successful people want others to be successful.
Yeah.
So when someone's successful, you already know they're going to be open to you being successful. So what's the fear in approaching them if you have the right statement that's going to help them?
That is such a powerful insight. I think that our fathers were kindred spirits because some of these things are even things that my dad told me.
Yeah.
It's just so endearing. And that's interesting because there's so much truth in that. Successful people do want to raise others up to success. And yet there is this dichotomy where oftentimes people who want success, they will put these barriers up like, oh, well, they're there and I'm here. And really, there's no barrier at all. And as soon as you realize that it's a game shifter, you, the person seeking to rise up, meaning
you don't want to put people on a pedestal.
no.
And I'm big on our internal thinking. I watch my energy and the vibes I'm giving off and what I'm thinking. And if I'm already saying I'm less than someone, that's going to come off when I'm talking with them. So people really are equal. That is what's so powerful. If we can really, and more than ever, is asking people to start doing that.
Oh, I love that. And I also love, and I'm going to dip down into comedy for a second, because I mentioned as we were messaging how much my family and I love stand-up comedy. And so, since we have children, you know, we have to be careful about which comedians we listen to. Everyone understands that.
Yeah.
but my kids just the other day, no joke, were just asking like, why aren't, and I don't know if it was my son or my daughter, but one of them said, why is it that there aren't more women in stand-up comedy? And are there any women? And I said, oh, yes, there are. But you were one of those people helping to push that envelope. And even in my real estate investing space, there was even a book called The Only Woman in the Room. And oftentimes I'll be the only woman. What was that like for you in that space? And how did it shape you for where you are today?
Well, it definitely can be crude. And it was very sexist before the Me Too movement happened. You could see some behaviors that were not okay. There was a big movement of clean comedy or blue comedy. Blue means that you go there. Some of the greats that go there, they would say, if you don't have hatred inside and don't have anger, you can say anything. So it has to come from a place of love. And you really can't say anything. I was kind of playing the neurotic character. Some people are storytellers, like a Richard Pryor, or some people use props. Some people are characters. So I used to do acting and plays and drama when I was younger. So I took on being a narcissist. But the audience was in on the joke of how foolish and silly that was, but it became fun because I would say, everyone gets a gin hug. The line forms at the end of the show. And so I like giving back love too. And people love to embrace that and have fun with it. So that's where I wasn't the funniest or the best writer, but I became this character that people did respond to.
That is so exciting. And in doing so, you did develop quite a nice following. And we were talking about, you know, some of the challenges that we can face as we are women and, you know, we're out in the public. And now we have people that want to follow us and get behind us and rally for us. And then there's a lot of, you know, a lot of women are cautious about, well, do I accept that connection request? Do I accept this person into my life? How much do I open this up because I don't really know that person? And let's go ahead and let's go there and talk about what can happen and some good measures.
Yeah, so I'm learning that it's not always understood, if you walked on this earth as a man, the things that women do face. I did an interview maybe 10 years ago, and the gentleman had been following me for a long time. And he said, I finally got it when he was at a gay bar, of all things. And he was looked up and down, and his words weren't being listened to. He was and he said, I got it. That's what you girls, gals go through every day. And we do. The world is shaping to be the men that are, to me, that tell that they're the ones that maybe did those behaviors before, the ones that say women are too sensitive. You can't even compliment someone if they're attractive anymore. But no, if you really, like, I had 3 serious stalker events as a stand-up female performer. And that's where it becomes scary when someone connects and they're too friendly. And if you're female and friendly back, sometimes it's misunderstood. I've had guy friends tell me that if you're too friendly and nice, that's seen as flirting, or they're gonna take it the wrong way. Oh gosh, I was even on, you know, the show Blind Date?
Yes.
I was on that, and yeah, and so reality TV is scripted because
Right.
being nice the whole time. It's an 11-hour date, and they just take snippets of it. This guy was crazy. He was from Canada. He was a comic, and he had a mannequin in his backyard. That's how it started.
This sounds awkward.
And so the whole episode, my friends said that they've never seen an episode so one-sided. He was so out there that they didn't make fun of me once. Like the mannequin would pop up in the middle of our date and say, "Who are you? I'm a model," and be competing because he said that that's his trophy woman or something like crazy. So the directors pulled me aside and said, "You got to tell him you're not into him because you're smiling and being so nice, and he doesn't understand that." That's actually what happens. Sometimes men don't understand why women have to close off or be afraid of even an invite or someone being too friendly to us, what we're opening ourselves up to.
That is just remarkable. And like, I think there's just so much pinging around inside of my head right now, because it's just so, when our minds are opened up to where things can go and how far things can go wrong. And hopefully the gentlemen listeners are hearing this, is that there is a lot going on the female side where, you know, safety precautions, protective measures, and it's nothing personal. It's just that vetting process so that we can ensure the safety of ourselves and potentially our own family, our children and such. So are there any, you know, what would you say to, you know, now we're in the social media world and there's so much going on. How do you go about connection requests and things like that? And have you thought about best practices in a sense for, you know, other females out there?
Yeah, I would definitely say be open and be aware. I wonder often if men get scared to walk in a dark parking lot to their car. So yeah, you have to stay cautious and keep that. But I just keep it casual. I did recently block someone on LinkedIn that wouldn't leave me alone, that kept saying, asking if I'm married, do I have family, why did I choose to move to Texas? And I just keep it professional. I treat it like that these are my colleagues. Yes. But then I also invest in energy if they have needs, and I want to do anything to make people grow and feel happy. So I do a lot of entertaining too on LinkedIn. But I'm going to keep it, when they message me, we're not friends. I don't know you. So I'm going to keep it on that kind of tonality. If someone pushes past, like that gentleman that just kept asking personal questions over and over again after I said, thanks for connecting, look forward to, let's make the world better. And then he kept it, I knew right away, block. You get telltale signs along the way. So I protect myself.
That's smart. I think that's one of the special perks of LinkedIn overall, is that it is that professional platform. And yeah. I know I've spent far more time over on LinkedIn in the last 6 months because it's just such a happy place. And it feels like there are some clear parameters compared to some other social platforms. So
definitely, you have your job history and employment. So it's not going to work out to be a certain way. I deleted Twitter with celebrities and connections beyond, because I was so sick of the 2015 situation and the election and all the fighting. And it turned to a point where I said, this is toxic. And I deleted 60,000 legit followers from Twitter and walked away. And I only find, I've not been on Facebook for 10 years. I've only found LinkedIn to be the healthiest for social media, because it gets very toxic and hateful fast. And there even has been some of that in LinkedIn. If you address anything sort of controversial, like even climate change or something like that, right? Like but I try to stay away from that. And like you said, just keep it more on a professional note.
That is so interesting. Okay, so I want to shift gears a little bit because I know that we are limited on time and I value you and your time. And I love this conversation so much, but now diving into some of the professional elements, you have such a robust background to draw upon. And I'm wondering if we can do it. Ask me how I know, when it comes to creating a good presentation, we're in this digital age and people have all these resources to create these presentations, and they might look nice. They might be all pretty, but they're actually not going to do anything.
Right.
So, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Right. So in business, it's like PowerPoint, death by PowerPoint. It can get
death by PowerPoint. I love it.
It can get boring fast. And if it's all about you and your company, you're going to lose people. So I think the biggest secret in life, be it business or personal connections or developing relationships, is the least about yourself and more about other people. You can have a conversation with someone where you don't say one word, and they will walk away, if they talked about themselves, saying what a great conversationalist Julie is, right? Because we want to talk about ourselves. And when you know inherently most people are going to have that trait about themselves, plus it's fun to learn about people if you're an observer. And my dad taught me that you're going to learn from other people. When we would travel around the world, he would always ask cab drivers, what's the best restaurant, where do locals go? That's how he learned and understood things that were foreign to him. And so we learned from others. I'm talking a lot right now, but I prefer to talk 20% and let myself grow and learn from someone else.
Yeah, I won't lie. I have to remind myself constantly to listen. And I think podcasting has been one of the best gifts to personal development for me, because I want to, I mentioned before we started recording, I always like to have the guest shine. And that means sometimes I have to restrain myself. I'm like a little, Labrador dog that just wants to come up and say, oh, but what, tell me about that. I want to know more about this. But it's like allowing someone to finish their thought and to get it out. And you're right. It's that listening into what somebody is saying and finding even that nugget and saying, oh, wait, what about that? Tell me more.
Yeah, in silence, sometimes in sales too, just be in comedy, particularly the power of silence. Jerry Seinfeld is a master at that. It automatically gives you power, and people want to fill silence. It's awkward for them, right? So they'll fill it with laughter usually, and it lets you gain control of an audience. In sales, if you ask a qualifying question, tell me about your business, what's your initiatives for 2021? What are you most concerned about? And just listen and be quiet. They will start to fill in that space and keep talking. Whereas if you listen to sales calls, sometimes you can hear people almost interrupt, particularly in these Zoom, and people cut each other off. And so you can't stop someone from talking if you're trying to understand them. Just let them talk, and people will, again, with that power of golden silence too.
It is, that silence is so awkward. It is so difficult for me to accept that I am a filler. I'm like, oh wait, there's something, nobody's talking. And there's a book, and I haven't read it yet. It's on my list, by Ryan Holiday, about, just like silence is, he wrote The Obstacle is a Way, and then he has another one. I should look. I have this book right here, but it's using silence as something powerful, just like you're saying. So how much silence should we have? What is it? What's the point of, okay, now this is awkward and you need to step in, or what's the threshold there?
I think when we're present, and if you ever heard like in the now,
Mhm.
right in that moment with someone. For me, I guess it's hard for me to answer because I'm just have one of those gifts of instincts and intuition as a woman. I think that's a strength of women, by the way. So you can kind of just feel that they're not going to say anymore. And you can say something simply like, that's really interesting. I'm taking some notes. I really like that you said, and then you repeat back what was said. They then in turn know, okay, this person is engaged and present with me. So I think when you're really in the now and care about someone authentically, the energy is felt. And there was nothing awkward if it did go quiet just by saying I'm taking notes. Then they respect you're gathering your thoughts too.
It's a very interesting dichotomy when you have the different personalities and temperaments. And similar to you, I definitely feel and feed off of people's energy. And sometimes it makes me a little unnerved. I'm like, oh no, did I do something wrong? And I'm like, step out of yourself. The world's not about you, girl. Like,
that's my favorite. It's not all about you. That's one of my favorite statements. So true.
They might be realizing that, whoa, I just said that out loud to this person that I'm only acquainted with. They could be going through their own whole process system, and allowing that silence to just let everybody just take a breath and skip a beat. It can be so awkward, but it's so necessary.
I remember hearing that people don't think about you as much as they think about themselves, something to that effect. And that's really true. Most of the time we hear this all the time, that people are thinking what to say next versus listening to what someone's saying. Or if we only knew people aren't seeing our every move unless you make it obvious. Like if you tripped and just handle yourself right, maybe no one noticed. But if you go, an accent that you just tripped, now the whole room sees that, yeah, you just did something clumsy and fell. So the real message is no one's thinking about you as much as you think they are. So like you said, get over yourself. You're not that great. Like just be present and keep it cool. Like I make mistakes. I'm clumsy. Who cares? I always find it hard when people apologize over and over again for something they did like that, because it's life. Let's just be real, right? I don't know if that resonates with you, but I try not to apologize. If I bump into someone, it's like, oh, excuse me. But it's not a big to do, like this big event, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I bumped into another human. That's so crazy, right? It's no big deal. It's a skinny hallway. You did it, right?
That is so funny. This is a common theme in my life because I'm a recovering people pleaser, apologetic kind of person. And so it's like, just like you said, the sky didn't fall because you accidentally bumped into that person. Or here's one that will resonate with most people. The sky didn't fall because you didn't respond to that email in 24 hours.
Right.
It's just not going to. You're human. Everybody understands. The inbox gets filled or this or that. No one's, I mean, if they're good people that you actually want to work with, they're going to understand. Like it's really, unless it's something timely that is time sensitive, they're going to understand. Okay, I'm going to be there. She's going to hear me. It's going to be fine. But yeah, get over yourself.
We have the right to take time out, and we need that. Like we turn off our cell phones and computers every night. How much more does humans need to be recharged as well? Even robots need to be plugged back in, right? You can't go 24/7. And the pandemic woke us up to maybe slowing down and getting a sense of a little more life balance. At first it was too much, like now I can't do anything or be out and I'm with my family all the time, to then saying, wow, let's bring it back some. There's benefits to slowing down and not being on all the time, and focus on every aspect of yourself. We're more than just a work. We should be, because that's how our work gets better, is when we're out. Like in stand-up comedy, you can't write good jokes or materials if you're not out there living and experiencing life. So you got to have a full life and balance and hobbies and interactions with people beyond just being in work mode to truly grow and be able to give back to the world, if you will.
That is really interesting, because one of the things you're pointing out is that really before the pandemic, we're on one side of the maybe more, I'm just going to be general, workaholic side of life. And then we went to the more saturated, nuclear personal side of life. And then there's this like harmony of like, okay, let's strike the balance. Let's find, we were living in this world for so many years, most of us, and let's bring them together and find that harmony.
Definitely. Mental health is a big issue moving forward. So you need your sleep. There's people that claim that 4 hours sleep is enough, but studies have shown later that heart problems happen, and we're not designed to always be go, go, go. And even though you can do it, in the end, it's not going to have a healthy existence because our bodies weren't made to operate like that.
No, they weren't. I have several podcast episodes on, definitely 2 solid episodes on sleep and sleep habits and the importance. I think I did one that was totally dedicated to how much you need your sleep, because just like you were saying, just like we'll put our computers to sleep, we'll turn our phones off. We do that with electronic devices. But I was thinking about this even yesterday, that I have to close out the tabs on my computer because it gets so ridiculous. Right. I know you do too. Come on.
Yeah.
Right. But I was thinking about the tabs in our minds and how it's like we just need to close out the tabs in our minds and just do a shutdown at night or periodically throughout the day. Just close out some tabs and just let it be.
Einstein and famous scientists would solve puzzles that took them years, from locking in sleep and getting to REM stage. And oftentimes our dreams, if we write them down as soon as we wake up, because you'll maybe forget it later on in the day, but particularly ones that are powerful, they are mysteries and telling us things. But our brain has to unconsciously start to filter out what to get rid of, and then have clarity to focus on what you're trying to solve. And that will happen with good sleep. And REM doesn't just happen in usually 4 hours. It's locked in at 8-9 hours is best.
It is super powerful. I'm going to drop a link for those of you listening. I'm going to drop a link in the show notes so that you can link back to the episode where I talk about this. And actually you can ask yourself a question. That was one of the tips I gave, was ask yourself a question before you go to sleep. Like, put your subconscious to work. Like, be intentional. My son was talking a couple of days ago about how he wasn't sleeping well. And I said, what are you thinking about before you go to bed? Like, let's start there, and like, give your mind something to latch onto, like, as you go to sleep.
Oh, that's so great. That's perfect. Yeah. Don't eat junk food, or food if you can, right before sleep. And even your computer light can affect sleep, or your phone light in the room. So if you can, darkness complete. I wear my little eye mask now when I go to sleep too.
I love those. My son happened to snatch mine, and I don't know if I'm being a good mom or a bad mom. Maybe I should be like, no, those are mine. Let's get you some. But I let him have them because he was noticing, he was having that issue. He's like, I want darkness. So.
Aww, that's great. Yeah, get another one, or get him what his favorite little cartoon or superhero is, new mask or something. But yeah, it does work.
It's really powerful. Speaking of sleep and the need for sleep and everything that we're talking about is also something that you're really skilled at, and that is just managing your time. And part of managing time is managing your sleep and making sure that you're getting the rest that you need. Mm-hmm. Are there any other tips, tricks, hacks that you have with time management?
Well, I do. When I work. So I'm not one of those when we went to the office days and believed in the water cooler time. I mean, that makes me antisocial, but I love work and being productive. I got that from my dad. It's not so much a workaholic stance. It's more like when you're in the zone, if you will. I want to capitalize on that. So chit chat. And like when we used to sit so close together where the person's almost like you can hear their phone conversation and you're in cubicles right out lined up, that would, particularly with what we talked about with absorbing people's energy and all that, that was hard for me to concentrate in those like bullpen. So there was another benefit of what COVID did, is stop that trend where the open office and we're all close together. So time management to me is just that when I focus on work, I'm there and present. I'm in the now and I'm going to do my job and get in that zone. I'll have goals. Like I need to make 60 calls today to new prospects that I've never talked to. So when you have a goal and I put it right in front of me, 60, then you're holding yourself accountable to achieve something in the time that you're given. So, and then I don't get distracted. And then when it comes to making time for family, you just want to call at a certain day or time. My dad and I always had a Sunday tradition, and growing up, we always had Saturday father-daughter breakfast all the way from when I was 5 to when I left for college. And it was where we just talked and listened to each other. So we had a scheduled time where I'd spend time with him, and we knew that like noon to 3 is our time that we talk during that period on Sundays. So to me, it just comes down to priorities and focus and goals.
And that can be really, really tough, because sometimes that means that we have to let some things or some people kind of slide off the edges a little bit.
Yep. If people will ask of you for things, I know people send me a lot of podcasts or videos and say, would you be interested, or can you give me advice on this? If I don't have an investment and that there's been some like history with this person and we don't know each other that well, I don't have to give my time because someone asked. I can say, I'm really happy with you right now. I have things that I'm focused on, so I can't watch it. I will just be transparent and honest too, because people will feel hurt if you didn't respond, but I'm going to be real and say no too. I think the biggest crime in robbing our time is if we say yes to everyone and everything.
Oh, I'm a recovering yeser.
As a mom, I am not a mom, so I know that must be even more challenging as to your time being taken away and how to set boundaries. So my hat's off to you for that.
Thank you. It's, it is a challenge. And for me, I love my work. I love what I do. And I love helping people. And sometimes the results of that I have in the business world can be more tangible and fast. And I am, I'm an American, so I like instant results. I'm like everybody else. And so that releases dopamine. There's this whole series of things that is happening, physiologically, psychologically, in every way. So it can be very addictive to be like, well, let me work. I'm getting this positive feedback. This is working out. And you're having this dopamine release and everything so I have to really focus in on my kids and have it on my calendar and have like, this is when we're doing school time. And I need to be in the now and I need to be with them present, right. Feeling their energy and be participating in that. And even I have an episode coming out shortly that's talking about this. Like it's even just constantly revisiting, put the phone away, put the phone away, put the distractions away, because you can invite all of those outside the chatter can still go unless you decide and make that choice to say no.
Yeah, like you don't realize that someone's sending you a text takes you out of the present moment, and maybe it's something work related and now your energy went elsewhere. So turning off devices, like you said, it's not the end of the world if you get back to them in 4 or 5 hours or the next day. Also another part is that I turn off email and definitely social media notifications. I don't need to change my mindset based on other people controlling what it is I'm thinking about. So what you said is so powerful. I couldn't agree more.
I love that. I love that so much. There's that documentary. What is it called? It's about social media right now. I watched it a few weeks ago with my husband and our daughter, but it has to do with it's a documentary, so it has a perspective just about how social media controls us. And we've had our notifications turned off for a long time just because I don't need the interruption. I don't need to know that somebody just had the best chocolate cake. I'm happy for them, but do I have to, I'm not experiencing it with you. I'm not eating, kind of like what you're saying, where's it? I need something too, and I'm not eating that chocolate cake. So I'll come and cheer you on later on my time.
I would love to hear what this documentary is. I did like hearing once that we're showing our best self often on social media. So it affects sometimes our self-esteem or perception that we're not having somehow a right life because everyone's just showing off their smiley faces and all this exciting details, and you're not seeing the full picture of someone. So when we're too obsessed and absorbed and living vicariously through celebrities or other people, I don't think that's impacting our own growth and our own journey here.
It seems like it's actually stunting it because, like you've said throughout this entire wonderful conversation, be in the now. You know, it's been a consistent thread. And it's like, if you want to be in the now of your life, but you're looking at other people's lives, you're not here in your own life. And you get to decide who you are and what your life consists of. And we're oftentimes just handing that over to somebody else. Say, oh, well, let me just watch you and live your life, even though it's not my life. Like,
yep. And back to silence, turning off all devices, the news, how negative and toxic that can be, that they focus on just all the suffering, and you just start feeling like the world is a bad place. Whereas if we're just in our own mind, it kind of takes some time to just be in total silence. I do meditate, and you find yourself, you detox away from all the noise and what the world is saying. And sometimes it's manipulative. It's not even reality. Like volunteer work is such a gift to the person doing it. It's because you're around people that also are doing and not just talking, and they tend to be some of the most give their literally jacket in the freezing cold to someone, and so you see the good of the world. But when I watch the news, I think the world's falling apart and we're all gonna never make money again, and we're all starving and the world is going to the crapper. Like, why do I want to fill my brain constantly with that kind of information? They hardly do good stories. And when they do, it's awesome, but it's rare.
It doesn't sell. That's it. We teach our kids always just follow the money. They asked us a question yesterday. And I said, well, just follow the money. They were talking about Dr. Seuss's birthday, quite frankly. And they were talking about, one of my children was saying, well, why did Dr. Seuss get highlighted when there are all these other, famous people who've also done great things? Why aren't these other famous? And I definitely enjoy Dr. Seuss books, so it's no slight on him, but I said, sweetheart, you got to follow the money. Like, you really can't get much money off of, some of these people who've done really great things, but you can sell kids books and you can sell paraphernalia and make it into this great event, and it's a money producing thing. And unfortunately, that's the world we live in. So follow the money. And with news, following the money of, what, good stories don't sell. It doesn't do that psychological release for us of, when we see a good story that's altruistic or something, it doesn't have that same chemical release as are initiating our fight or flight from negativity. Oh gosh, we got to do something about this,
Exactly. Stay tuned.
War is coming.
No, I know. And fear does motivate, but it doesn't for the long term.
Yeah, detrimental.
Fear-based type living is not living authentically to taking time out and just finding yourself. So yes, the world operates on money. But if you want to be invaluable, the more knowledge that you learn, the more powerful you become. So some of the greatest people that we know by name, Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi, I grew up studying people that changed the world. They shut off from the world and take away from that kind of energy. And when you truly are fully evolved self, you're never going to have to worry about working for the man or losing your job or paycheck to paycheck, because you're now at a level that few people get to. So you become where you can write books, where you can do speaker engagements. And when people are famous, oddly, you pay the least for things. You get things free. Hotels, restaurants, all these things open up to you. So I would say, instead of thinking about money is everything, no, our knowledge and our self-power is everything. And my dad always said, do what you love and passionate about, and the money will follow.
Absolutely. That is exactly what we tell our kids. We were not, just to clarify, we weren't telling our kids, go out and to chase. We're not money chasers, but money. We're like, this is why this person is getting the more highlighted than these other people.
Yep. It's just the truth. And that's so a gift to tell children, but then, like, as complicated as life is, and it's truly not that black and white, it's gray. And when we open up to, okay, that's a lot for a child to digest first, is that the world operates on money, which is true. But then as stages evolve, as we as humans live, you see another side too. And it's complex and complicated as it is. And so when we worry the least about money, suddenly in the universe, we're open enough and not all constricted and scared and uptight, that it can allow itself to introduce where your gifts are and what you should do. It all sounds so corny, I know, but several times in my life, I've experienced this. I've gone through where you think you're going to need food stamps, or in stand-up comedy, I was to the point I was going to start sleeping on people's couches. I mean, I've been where you're going to feel like I'm going to lose everything. But the moment if you believe in a higher being, great. If you don't, just believe in yourself, and investing in that calmness attracts, and our energy attracts. It's even what's that book about the law of attraction?
Secret?
Yeah. There's some things to that are very true. And even Jim Carrey wrote a check for $1 million when he was unknown for him to cash one day, and he made that true. And so our power of our brain is it's not utilized enough, but you're not going to get anywhere by being restricted and scared and thinking that everything's over. You actually can create that being your destiny then.
I think we use the power of our mind quite often. We're just not intentional about it and using it for great things, the great things that we have within us, maybe. I always tell our kids that you have multiple resources, and money is just one of your resources. Mm-hmm. And with some of the board games that we play, you can start trading different resources, but you have time, you have energy, you have money, you also have talent. And when we're focused on our money, our talent gets constricted, and we can't be our best person when we're restricting that.
Yeah. And back to our father's health. When my dad would say, you can always replace money, but you cannot replace your health.
Absolutely. Jen, I have appreciated this conversation so much, and your time. I am so grateful. I noticed that it is time, oh my goodness, we need to wrap up. I know that you are in the process, speaking of our fathers, you are in the process of writing a book about the lessons that you learned from your father. can you tell us a little, give us a little teaser? And I want to invite all of the listeners to please make sure you go and you follow Jen, because launching a book takes quite a bit. And just having the support of others to help promote the book and get it out is absolutely huge.
And I thank you for that. Very appreciative. My dad, 6'4", Don Wilkinson, I would say he was the norm of Cheers. Everywhere he went, people knew his name when he left. He was complicated, as a good character would be for a book. And I think it's just I want to share what you shared too in our conversation prior to this podcast, is how much our dads shape, I think particularly a daughter's life. The power they have and the self-esteem they give us. So it is to address the power of dads. And then my dad just happens to be a very interesting character, funny, talented, successful, also could be beyond tough and went through times where he lost it all and built it all back again too. So I just want to combine all those things and give back a chance for the world to meet Don Wilkinson as well.
That is so amazing. Jen, where is the best place for people to connect with you?
So it would be today only LinkedIn. As I mentioned to you, I'm going to need to reopen LinkedIn, but you can find me by searching Jen, single N, Jen Wilkinson, and I will open up LinkedIn. And so feel free to connect, and I do respond and love people, and I met you this way too. So it's very powerful, LinkedIn.
It is very powerful. And you did respond. I caught your posts and I'm like, oh my goodness, she's amazing. I want to have her on my podcast for season 2. So thank you, Jen. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us, Jen.
It's been wonderful to talk with you and engage. So thank you so much, Julie.
And to all the wonderful listeners, thank you so much for taking time to listen. Please make sure you go and you follow Jen and connect up. And please remember that I do like to curate content that will serve you well. So if there is something that you want us to cover over here on Ask Me How I Know, please just shoot me a message. Let me know. If it's not a normal topic for the show, then we'll just release it on another day. But definitely reach out to me. If you haven't already shared this episode or another episode, please make sure that you share so that the podcast can grow through the organic means and reach so many other listeners. Until next time, go find your freedom. Thanks so much for joining me for another episode of Ask Me How I Know. This episode was brought to you by 3 Keys Investments. They are dedicated to helping people like you, you, my awesome listeners, develop passive income and legacy wealth through multifamily investing. Feel free to check out their website, 3keysinvestments.com, to see if there is an offering that will help your portfolio grow and meet all of your needs. If you haven't already rated, reviewed, subscribed, liked, all of those bells and whistles, I would be absolutely honored if you would do that for Ask Me How I Know. Thanks again, and go make it a great day.